The watch on my wrist read 2:17 a.m. when the front door's lock clicked open. I sat motionless in the darkness of our living room, the leather of my armchair cool against my forearms. The familiar sound of Claire's heels struck the marble foyer, cautious, hesitant taps rather than her usual confident stride. She didn't turn on the lights. She didn't call out. She didn't expect anyone to be awake. When she passed through the archway into the living room, I could smell him on her. Expensive cologne with notes of cedar and something spicy. Not mine. Never mine. "Jesus, Mark." "You scared me," she gasped, hand flying to her chest. "What are you doing sitting in the dark?" I observed her, my wife of 20 years. Disheveled hair, smudged lipstick, and a slight wrinkle in her usually impeccable designer blouse. The pearl necklace I'd given her for our anniversary was missing. "Waiting for you," I replied simply, my voice unnervingly calm even to my own ears. "Client meeting run late?" Her recovery was impressive, almost admirable in its efficiency. "God, yes. The Morrison case is a nightmare. Their counsel keeps throwing new demands at the last minute. I'm exhausted." She dropped her purse on the side table, ran a hand through her blonde hair. "I'm going to shower and crash. Don't wait up." As she climbed the stairs, I remained seated, staring at the empty space where she had stood. I wanted to scream. I wanted to chase after her and demand the truth. I wanted to call my brother and ask him if betrayal was a family trait I'd somehow missed. Instead, I took a deep breath and made a decision. Claire was a lawyer. She knew how to twist words, create reasonable doubt, manipulate perceptions. I needed absolute, undeniable proof, and I would get it without breaking a single thing. Not my dignity, not my relationship with my daughter, not even a glass. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me broken. My name is Mark Ellison, 46 years old, owner of Ellison Construction. Not the biggest outfit in town, but respected, reliable. We built things to last: houses, office buildings, community centers. I took pride in creating structures that would stand long after I was gone. I met Claire Harrington at a charity gala 22 years ago. I was there because my company had donated materials for a community project. She was there because the Harringtons were always there: old money, powerful connections. She stood out like a diamond among glass beads, her laugh musical and refined, her blue eyes sharp with intelligence. "You don't belong here, do you?" were her first words to me, a champagne flute delicately balanced between manicured fingers. "That obvious?" I smiled, uncomfortable in my rented tux. "Refreshingly so," she said. "Everyone else is pretending. You're just being." I fell hard and fast. Claire was everything I wasn't: cultured, sophisticated, ambitious. She'd just passed the bar exam and had offers from prestigious firms. When she chose me, a contractor with calloused hands and a 2-bedroom starter home, her parents were horrified. That only seemed to delight her more. We married within a year. Emily arrived 3 years later, a perfect blend of us both: Claire's piercing blue eyes and my unruly dark hair. She had Claire's quick mind and my steady hands. From the moment she could speak, she was the mediator between our increasingly different worlds. "Daddy, Mommy says your jokes are uncouth, but I think they're funny," she'd whisper to me. "Mom, Dad doesn't understand your lawyer friends, but he tries really hard," she'd explain to Claire. As the years passed, Claire's career flourished. Partner by 35, specializing in corporate law. My business grew too, steadily, if not spectacularly. We moved to a larger house in a better neighborhood. Private school for Emily. Summer vacations in Europe. We had the life people envied. My brother Richard was always there through everything. 4 years younger, eternal bachelor, financial advisor with a golden touch. He helped me secure loans when I was starting out. He invested Claire's bonuses shrewdly. He was Emily's favorite uncle, the one who taught her to ride a bike when I was stuck on a major project and Claire was in court. "You hit the jackpot with Claire," he told me once, beer in hand as we watched a game in my den. Don't ever forget it. I never did. Perhaps that was the problem. Looking back, I can see the signs started about 8 months before that night I waited in the dark. Claire began working later, canceling our rare date nights at the last minute. Her phone became a jealous companion, never left unattended. Passwords changed on accounts we'd once shared freely. "Mom's always whispering on the phone," Emily mentioned one evening while we were making dinner together. "When I walk in, she hangs up or switches to lawyer talk." I shrugged it off. "Big case, honey. You know how she gets?" But it wasn't just the secretive calls. Claire grew critical of everything. My clothes, my conversation at her firm's gatherings, even the way I loaded the dishwasher. Small disrespects accumulated like snowflakes before an avalanche. "Do you have to wear that shirt? We're meeting the Prestons. Maybe let me handle the talking when Janet asks about politics." For God's sake, Mark, can you at least pretend to understand the difference between Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc? Richard started appearing at our house more frequently, often when I was scheduled to be at job sites. I came home early once to find them laughing in the kitchen, wine glasses half empty, a sudden awkward silence falling when I entered. "Just going over some investment options," Richard explained, gathering papers too quickly. "Emily's college fund needs attention," Claire added, not quite meeting my eyes. I nodded, ignoring the prickle of suspicion. This was Claire, my wife. This was Richard, my brother. The thought of betrayal seemed absurd, a bad plot from one of those soap operas Claire mocked but secretly recorded. Then came the weekend Claire claimed she needed to attend a legal conference in Chicago. She packed carefully, new lingerie I'd never seen peeking from her suitcase when she stepped into the bathroom. When I offered to drive her to the airport, she insisted on taking a taxi. "Don't be silly. You have that big project meeting and traffic will be terrible." That same weekend, Richard mentioned he was visiting a client in Indianapolis. I buried my suspicions deeper. Coincidence? Nothing more. I was being paranoid, insecure. Claire had chosen me, hadn't she? 20 years together couldn't be a lie. But one evening I overheard Claire on the phone in her home office, door not quite closed. "I can't talk long," she whispered. "Yes, I miss you too." "No, he doesn't suspect a thing. Soon, I promise. Once everything's in place." When she emerged 30 minutes later, she was all smiles and casual questions about my day. I said nothing, but that night I couldn't sleep. I lay beside her, watching the ceiling, feeling the careful inch of space she maintained between our bodies. The distance had never felt so vast. The breaking point came on a Tuesday afternoon, unremarkable except for how it shattered my world. I was in my home office, reviewing bids for a new project, when Emily knocked on my door. My 17-year-old daughter, usually so confident and bright, stood in the doorway with red-rimmed eyes and trembling hands. "Dad, can I talk to you?" I immediately put down my papers. "Of course, sweetheart. What's wrong?" She closed the door behind her and sat heavily in the chair across from my desk. Her fingers twisted around each other, a nervous habit she'd had since childhood. "I've been keeping something from you," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "And I can't anymore. It's eating me up inside." My heart began to pound. Had she gotten into trouble at school? Was she pregnant? Was she ill? "Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together," I promised. Emily took a deep, shuddering breath. "It's about Mom." Something in her tone made my blood run cold. 2 weeks ago, I was going to surprise Jenna for her birthday. I drove to the cafe near the Westwood Hotel where we were supposed to meet. She swallowed hard. I was early, so I was just sitting in my car, waiting. And I saw Uncle Richard's car pull into the hotel parking lot. My mouth went dry. "Emily, Mom was with him, Dad." Her voice broke. "They didn't see me. They were kissing." Not like a friendly kiss. Really kissing. The room seemed to tilt sideways. I gripped the edge of my desk. I didn't know what to do, Emily continued, tears streaming down her face now. I took some pictures with my phone because I thought maybe I was seeing things wrong. But I wasn't. They went into the hotel together. They were holding hands. She pulled out her phone with shaking fingers, opened her gallery, and slid it across the desk to me. The images were slightly blurry but unmistakable. Claire and Richard, embracing against his BMW. My wife's fingers threaded through my brother's hair, his hand possessively at the small of her back. "I'm so sorry, Dad," Emily sobbed. "I didn't know how to tell you. I was afraid it would destroy everything." I stared at the photos, an odd calm settling over me. Strange, how the confirmation of your worst fears can bring a certain peace. The wondering was over. Now, I knew. I stood up, walked around the desk, and pulled my daughter into a hug. "You did the right thing, sweetheart," I murmured into her hair. "Thank you for being brave enough to tell me the truth." She cried against my shoulder, her body shaking with the force of her sobs. "What are you going to do?" I held her at arm's length, looked into those blue eyes so like her mother's, but filled with an honesty Claire had long abandoned. "I'm going to handle it," I said, "but I need your help, and I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Emily nodded, wiping her tears. "I trust you, Dad. I always have." In that moment, everything crystallized. My path forward became blindingly clear. Claire and Richard had betrayed me in the worst possible way. They had lied, schemed, and mocked what I held sacred. They had hurt not just me, but Emily. I wouldn't lash out in anger. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of portraying me as unstable or violent. No, this called for something far more calculated. This called for justice served cold. "You want to what?" Emily asked, eyes wide with disbelief. We sat in a cafe 20 miles from our home, where there was no chance of running into anyone we knew. 3 days had passed since her revelation, and I had used every minute to plan. "I want to gather evidence," I repeated calmly, stirring my coffee. "Irrefutable proof of their affair and whatever else they're planning. But why not just confront Mom now? We have the photos." I shook my head. "Your mother is a lawyer, Emily. She could claim it was a momentary lapse in judgment. One mistake. She could twist it around, make promises she has no intention of keeping." Emily looked down at her untouched sandwich. "You think it's been going on a long time?" "I'm certain of it." I reached across the table, squeezed her hand. "And there's something else. I overheard your mother on the phone. I think they're planning something, possibly involving our finances." Her head snapped up. "You mean like stealing from you?" "I don't know exactly, but I intend to find out." I pulled out a small paper bag and placed it between us. "That's why I need your help." Inside the bag were 3 small GPS trackers and 2 voice-activated recorders, purchased with cash from an electronics store in another town. "Is this legal?" Emily whispered, looking nervously around the empty cafe. "In our state, it's legal to record conversations that you're a part of. As for the GPS, I'd be tracking my own property, the car that's in my name, which your mother drives." I met her gaze steadily. "But the morality is trickier. I won't lie to you about that." Emily bit her lip, conflict evident in her expression. Then her face hardened with resolve. "They didn't think about morality when they started sneaking around," she said. "They didn't think about us at all." I nodded, pride mixing with the hollowness in my chest. My daughter was showing more courage and clarity than I'd managed in months of willful blindness. We spent the next hour developing our plan. Emily would place 1 tracker in Claire's car and another in her purse. a designer bag with countless pockets where a tiny device could remain undetected. I would handle Richard's car the next time he visited. The recorders would be placed in Claire's home office and in the guest room where she often took important calls. "What then?" Emily asked as we prepared to leave. "Then we wait," I said. "We collect data, and when the time is right, we act." That evening, as Claire worked late again, Emily and I executed the first phase of our plan. The GPS trackers were in place, the recorders hidden. I also made an appointment with the top divorce attorney in a neighboring county, a woman known for her ruthless efficiency who had no connections to Claire's firm. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next morning, I behaved exactly as Claire expected. Distracted, trusting, clueless Mark. I kissed her cheek as she left for work, wished her a good day, told her not to work too hard. She smiled, relieved by my predictability. "Don't wait up if I'm late." "Never do," I replied, the double meaning lost on her. As soon as her car left the driveway, I opened my laptop and pulled up the GPS tracking software. The dot representing Claire's car moved steadily toward her office downtown. For now. Over the next 3 weeks, the evidence accumulated like a slow-rising flood. Claire was not having a momentary lapse in judgment. Claire and Richard were not in the throes of a passionate but recent affair. No, this was a calculated long-term betrayal. The GPS trackers revealed a pattern. Twice a week, Claire's lunch break took her to the Westwood Hotel. Once a week, she spent 3 hours at Richard's downtown condo. Every Sunday, when she claimed to be at the gym, followed by a session with her personal trainer, she was actually at a lakeside cabin registered to a shell company I discovered was owned by my brother. But the locations were just the beginning. The recorders captured conversations that turned my blood to ice. "We need to be patient," Claire told Richard during one call. "If we move too quickly, he might get suspicious. The prenup has a fidelity clause." "How much longer?" Richard asked, his voice petulant. "It's been almost a year, Claire." "Just a few more months. I'm laying the groundwork with friends and family. Poor Claire working so hard while Mark grows more distant and controlling." My brother laughed. "Is anyone buying that?" "Mark's about as controlling as a golden retriever." "You'd be surprised what people will believe when you tell them what they want to hear. The Prestons already think he's verging on emotional abuse. Apparently, he embarrassed me at their dinner party by contradicting me about politics." "And the money? How's that coming?" "Almost there. I've been moving small amounts to the offshore account. Once we have enough, I'll file for divorce, claim emotional abandonment, and walk away with the house, half his business, and enough alimony to keep us comfortable while we figure out our next steps." "What about Emily?" Richard asked. There was a pause before Claire answered. "She'll adjust. Teenagers always side with the parent who offers more freedom. Once this is over, I'll be the fun one again, not the stressed working mom. She'll come around." I played that recording for Emily. She listened with her hands clenched into fists, tears streaming silently down her face. When it ended, she looked up at me with a determination that mirrored my own. "How much does she get if the prenup's fidelity clause is triggered?" she asked. "Nothing beyond what she brought into the marriage and a token settlement," I replied. It was her father's idea, ironically. He didn't trust the contractor marrying his princess. Emily nodded slowly. "When do we end this, Dad?" I reached for my phone and pulled up the calendar. "Your mother's birthday is in 3 weeks. She's been planning that big party at the country club. All her friends, family, colleagues, important people she wants to impress." A smile spread across Emily's face, so like my own that it startled me. Perfect. The final pieces of my plan fell into place. I met twice more with the divorce attorney, providing her with all the evidence I'd gathered. I spoke with my company's financial officer, making certain my business was protected. I quietly moved Emily's college fund to a secure trust in her name alone. And I made one special purchase, a high-definition projector and sound system delivered to my office rather than our home. The night before the party, Claire was almost giddy with anticipation. "Everything has to be perfect tomorrow," she said as she laid out her new dress, a crimson designer piece that cost more than some of my employees made in a month. The Marstons confirmed their coming and Judge Weller too. "It'll be perfect," I promised, meaning it more than she could possibly understand. "Everything exactly as it should be." Claire's birthday fell on a Saturday that year, one of those perfect early autumn days with clear skies and a gentle breeze. The country club looked immaculate, the banquet room transformed with elaborate floral arrangements and soft lighting. A string quartet played in the corner. Waiters circulated with champagne and delicate hors d'oeuvres. I arrived early with Emily to oversee the final preparations, including the special additions I'd arranged with the event coordinator, a technician to set up my projector and speakers, conveniently hidden behind decorative screens until needed. "Are you nervous?" Emily asked as we watched the room fill with guests. "No," I replied honestly. "I feel clear, like I'm finally seeing everything exactly as it is." Claire made her entrance at precisely 7:30, radiant in her red dress, expertly applied makeup concealing the fine lines around her eyes. She moved through the crowd like royalty, accepting compliments and air kisses, laughing at just the right moments. Richard arrived 10 minutes later, looking uncomfortable in his tailored suit. He gave me a brotherly clap on the shoulder, pressed a kiss to Emily's cheek, and moved quickly to the bar. For the next hour, I played my part perfectly. The devoted husband, slightly out of place among his wife's sophisticated friends but trying his best. I caught Claire watching me occasionally, a slight frown marring her perfect features when I engaged Judge Weller in a lengthy conversation about his classic car collection. At 9 o'clock, the event coordinator tapped a spoon against a glass, calling for attention. "And now, I believe Mr. Ellison would like to make a toast to the birthday girl." The room quieted. All eyes turned to me as I moved to the center of the room, champagne flute in hand. Claire stood near the massive birthday cake, a practiced smile on her face, no doubt expecting a few awkward, heartfelt words she could graciously acknowledge before moving on to more important guests. I smiled at her, raised my glass. "To Claire, my wife of 20 years. Approving murmurs rippled through the crowd. "They say that behind every successful man is a woman. But in our case, I've always been behind Claire, supporting her remarkable career, her social ambitions, her private endeavors." A slight tension entered her posture. Beside her, Richard shifted uncomfortably. "Recently, I've discovered just how resourceful my wife can be, how she can balance so many demanding roles. Corporate attorney, social butterfly, devoted wife." I paused. "Passionate lover." The murmurs turned confused. Claire's smile froze. "Oh, not with me, of course." I turned slightly, looking directly at Richard. "With my brother, my younger brother Richard, who's been like a second father to our daughter Emily." Gasps erupted around the room. Claire's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the polished floor. Richard blanched, already backing toward the exit. "Mark, you're making a scene," Claire hissed, recovering quickly. "You're embarrassing yourself." "Am I?" I set down my glass and pulled a small remote from my pocket. "Let's see who should be embarrassed." I pressed a button. The decorative screens slid back, revealing the projector. The lights dimmed automatically, and there on the wall appeared the first image, Claire and Richard kissing against his car outside the Westwood Hotel. "No," Claire whispered. I clicked again. Another photo, the two of them entering the lakeside cabin, his arm around her waist. "Mark, stop this immediately." Claire's father, red-faced and furious, stepped forward. "I'm just getting started, Gerald," I replied calmly. "Don't you want to hear what your daughter really thinks of her husband?" I pressed another button. The speakers crackled to life with Claire's voice, crystal clear in the stunned silence. "Mark is too dumb to ever find out." Once I get the house in the divorce, Richard and I are gone." Richard's voice followed. "What about your parents?" "They love Mark." Claire's laugh was dismissive. "They love that he's predictable and boring. The perfect backdrop to showcase their perfect daughter. They'll adjust, especially when I tell them how controlling he's become." I clicked through more images, played more damning audio clips. The affair, the financial conspiracy, the character assassination she'd been carefully orchestrating. Claire stood frozen, her perfect makeup unable to hide the rage and shock contorting her features. Richard had already fled the room like the coward he was. Around us, guests watched in horrified fascination, phones discreetly recording despite the strict no photography policy of the event. When the final recording ended, Claire callously discussing how Emily would adjust to the new reality, I turned the lights back up. The silence was absolute. "I filed for divorce last week," I announced to the room. "Thanks to the prenuptial agreement and the evidence of infidelity, Claire will receive only what she brought into our marriage, which, as her father reminded me repeatedly back then, was her law degree and her family name." I turned to face my in-laws, who stood shell-shocked near the cake. "Gerald, Barbara, I'm sorry you had to learn this way what your daughter is capable of. I've always respected you both." Barbara Harrington, usually the picture of aristocratic composure, had tears streaming down her carefully powdered cheeks. Gerald looked as though he might collapse. "Additionally," I continued, "the evidence of attempted financial fraud has been provided to the appropriate authorities. The offshore account has been frozen." I walked toward Claire, stopping just beyond arm's reach. "The house is already on the market. Emily will be staying with me in the new place. The court was particularly impressed with her impact statement." Claire finally found her voice, though it emerged as a strangled whisper. "You can't do this. I'll fight you. I'll destroy you." I smiled, genuinely amused. "With what weapons, Claire? Your credibility is gone. Your reputation is in tatters. Even your parents can't look at you right now." I glanced around the room, at the shocked faces of the social circle she'd cultivated so carefully. "These people came to celebrate your birthday. Instead, they're witnessing your funeral, the death of the Claire Ellison they thought they knew." I stepped back, addressed the stunned crowd once more. "Please, enjoy the rest of the evening. The cake is excellent. I selected it myself. Emily and I will be leaving now." My daughter emerged from where she'd been standing with the event coordinator. She walked directly to her mother, chin high, eyes clear. "Emily," Claire breathed, reaching for her. "Honey, this isn't—" "Don't." Emily's voice was steady. "I heard everything. I saw everything. I helped Dad gather the evidence." Claire's hand dropped limply to her side. "You betrayed me? Your own mother?" Emily's laugh was short and bitter. "That's rich coming from you. I chose the parent who never lied to me." She turned her back on her mother and took my hand. Together we walked toward the exit, past the whispers and stares, past the life we were leaving behind. In the parking lot, Emily finally spoke. "Is it over?" I squeezed her hand gently. "This part is. Now we begin the next chapter." Behind us, through the country club's windows, we could see the aftermath unfolding. Claire collapsed in a chair, her parents standing stiffly apart from her, guests making hasty exits. Her perfect world was crumbling, just as she had planned for mine. But I had built my life on solid foundations, and like the structures my company created, I would rebuild, stronger, wiser, with my daughter by my side. 6 months later, I stood on the deck of our new lake house, coffee mug in hand, watching the sunrise paint the water gold. Emily was home for the weekend from her first semester at college, sleeping soundly in her room. "Dad?" She appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a blanket despite the mild morning. "You're up early." "Old habits?" I smiled, making room for her on the bench. Sleep well? Better than at the dorm. She settled beside me, stealing a sip of my coffee. Have you heard anything? She didn't need to specify. In the months since the birthday party revelation, we had both adjusted to our new normal. The divorce had been finalized with surprising speed, Claire offering no contest once she realized how thoroughly she'd been outmaneuvered. The prenup's fidelity clause had worked exactly as intended. She'd walked away with nothing but her personal possessions and a small settlement I'd added, not out of kindness, but to ensure she had no grounds for appeal. Your grandfather called yesterday, I said. He and your grandmother are still in Europe. I think they're hiding from the gossip as much as enjoying retirement. Emily nodded. After the party, Gerald and Barbara Harrington had publicly disowned Claire, their disgust at her betrayal overriding even parental loyalty. They had made a point of maintaining their relationship with Emily, though, calling weekly and funding a generous trust for her future. And Mom? I hesitated. Claire had attempted contact several times in the immediate aftermath. Tearful phone calls, manipulative emails, even an ambush outside my office where she'd alternated between threats and pleas for reconciliation. Each attempt had been met with calm, immovable silence. Eventually, she'd stopped trying. Working at a small firm in Seattle, last I heard. Started over completely. With Uncle Richard? I shook my head. Richard's wife took him for everything in their divorce. He's selling timeshares in Florida now. Emily was quiet for a moment. Do you think they ever loved each other? Or was it just excitement? The thrill of doing something forbidden? It was a question I'd asked myself many times. I don't know, sweetheart. I'm not sure it matters anymore. She leaned against my shoulder. I miss who I thought she was. Is that weird? Number, I do too sometimes. I wrapped an arm around her. But I don't miss who she actually was. We sat in comfortable silence, watching a pair of ospreys circle above the lake. My phone buzzed with a text from Karen, the landscape architect I'd been seeing for the past 2 months. A warm, straightforward woman who laughed easily and spoke honestly. Nothing like Claire. Are you going to answer that? Emily asked, a knowing smile playing at her lips. Later. I tucked the phone away. This moment is just for us. The sun climbed higher, burning away the morning mist. In the distance, a boat cut across the gleaming surface of the lake, leaving a trail of ripples that expanded and faded. Like the remnants of my old life, still visible if you looked closely, but receding further with each passing day. I had lost a wife and a brother, but found a strength I hadn't known I possessed. Emily had lost her mother but gained an unshakable confidence in her own judgment. Together, we had weathered the worst kind of betrayal and emerged not just intact, but somehow more whole than before. Claire had once sneered that I was too dumb to ever find out. In the end, her greatest miscalculation wasn't underestimating my intelligence, but failing to recognize that real strength isn't found in schemes and manipulations. It's built through honesty, resilience, and the courage to face painful truths. As we sat watching the new day unfold, I realized that in her attempt to destroy me, Claire had inadvertently given me something priceless. The freedom to become the man I was always meant to be. I'm proud of us, Dad, Emily said softly. I pressed a kiss to the top of her head, my heart full. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.